Welcome to the 14th ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there are 2 new parts. And stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. By the way, check the pinned comment below this video to see why we are not learning readings for each kanji just yet. Let's get into it. This kanji looks like an axe or blade of some sort to me, or maybe a dragon's eye, but it means evening. The official radical of evening is evening, which you were probably able to guess at this point. We can sort of break it down into a no part, a fu part, and a dot. We write it in exactly that order. We start with the no part and attach the top of the single stroke in fu to that. The dot is drawn enclosed within those. Historically, this was exactly the same as the kanji for moon. Like, they were exactly the same kanji. It wasn't until the Western Zhou dynasty, or sometime around 1045 BC to 771 BC, that these 2 kanji were differentiated from each other, with the one we're learning here coming to mean evening or nighttime. For our story, we'll picture a play happening on stage with our characters No and Fu. You can see No and Fu dangling on stage, taking on the role of the evening moon, appearing as a dot within Fu, a pictograph of the moon in the evening. Remember, can be a way to express a quiet laugh in text in Japanese. Also remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it, or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. Evening is clearly a part of this next very common kanji, which means name. You're going to see this one a lot, so you'll get used to it very fast. Appropriately, the official radical for this kanji is mouth. This makes sense since you call out names with your mouth, not with your evening, whatever that is. The parts, though, are clearly evening and mouth combined. There are 6 strokes in name. We start with evening, drawing the no, followed by the fu part. We enclose the dot inside of those 2 strokes, before moving on to the 3 strokes in mouth: vertical, upside down L, and horizontal. I find the history of this character fascinating. In fact, I don't even think you'll need a story after this. Apparently, these parts were chosen for this kanji because when it gets dark out and you run into someone, you need to call out your name to them so everyone knows who they're dealing with. Makes sense, right? Anyway, the parts have always been the same. I said we don't need a story, but I have one for you anyway. We're back on the stage for the play we learned about in the story for evening. Below the evening sky, mouth states the name of the play. Evening, as in that's the name of the play. Mouth, as in our mouth character. He's in the play too, I guess. Or at least he's the announcer for it. Hit the like button for all of our lovely characters. Bringing us to our first part, which means spoon. Since this is just a radical, we won't be learning any radicals for it. What? Really? Understood. Fine. It's a kanji. It can be used for the word spoon, and it is its own radical. But we're not learning it as a kanji because it's literally Kanken level 1, which is completely unnecessary. We can break this kanji down into a fishhook and curvy line if we want. I think it's fine to keep this as its only part though. There are 2 simple strokes in spoon. We draw the curved line first and then the fishhook-like stroke next. In calligraphy and writing, sometimes this line will cut through the first stroke. In computer fonts, it looks much more like the katakana hi. Historically, this was apparently a pictograph of a spoon, but to me it looks a lot more like a person preparing to dive into a swimming pool. Hit the subscribe button if you see that too. For our story, we're going to say that it's a pictograph of an arm holding a big spoon, which the modern form does kind of look like, although it's more of a ladle than a spoon, I guess. The first kanji we're learning that has spoon as a part is change, as in to change, not the change in your pocket or in your couch cushions. The official radical for change is spoon, and not the person part on the left in the hen position. Interestingly, person on the left usually means a kanji has something to do with people or things that they do. This one is actually not so much of an exception if you read the historical evolution of the character. Getting ahead of myself though. There are 4 strokes in change. We start with person on the left, drawing the no-like stroke on top and the staff-like stroke below it. We then draw the curved stroke right to left in spoon and the hook, sometimes, through the curved stroke. I find the history of this kanji very fun. If you look at the 2 earliest forms, you might notice something interesting. The 2 sides of this kanji are mirror images, with the one on the right also upside down. These are actually both supposed to be person, with the upside down reverse of person indicating the change in position, or the change that a person can make. Super cool, right? After that, the part on the right changed so much that it took on a life of its own and became a spoon or something. For our story, we have Ando-san peeking around a corner trying to change the ingredients in spoon. Because remember, our person is always Ando-san. The next part we're going to learn is the grass radical. We learned in an earlier video that 8 horse-leg crown is technically a different form of this radical. Anyway, in Japanese, this is called kusakamuri, or grass crown. So we're staying faithful to the original here. This one is, I promise, just a radical, not a kanji. So no radical. And it is its only part. There are 3 strokes in this radical. We draw the horizontal line first, and then the 2 blades of grass through it. Historically, this appears to have evolved from this cool little guy, and it was originally simplified to have 4 strokes, basically being 2 little tens, but then was simplified even more for the Joyo standard kanji into this. For our story, we're going with a pictograph, because this one is easy. This is just grass coming out of the ground. The first kanji we'll meet that uses the grass crown is flower. Makes sense, right? The official radical is grass radical, although I should mention that in Japanese dictionaries, it's listed as this. The parts are clearly defined as a grass radical and change. There are 7 strokes in flower. They're written exactly as we'd expect. We first write the 3 strokes in grass radical on top, since it is a crown. We then draw the 2 strokes in person on the left, and finally the spoon, diagonal stroke first, followed by the hook part. I couldn't find any cool diagrams for how this one specifically evolved because it's actually a fairly new creation. This is actually an abbreviated or simplified version of this kanji, which still exists. The top stayed the same, but for the bottom, they used change to indicate the Chinese reading, which is usually ka. God, I'm loving learning about the history of all these kanji. It makes them so much easier to understand. Anyway, that original form evolved in this way. Strong ghost Pokemon vibes. Let me know if you see it down in the comments. Or let me know what stories you created for all these kanji. For this kanji, we're going with a pictographic story. A flower is just grass, you think, that changes into flowers. As in, you think or imagine that it's just grass. Obviously, it's not that simple. This kanji kind of looks like trees or something. Or perhaps 2-letter T's with flair? I say trees because this kanji means bamboo. The official radical of bamboo is bamboo. We can break it down into 3 parts though. No lying down, a staff, and a feathered broomstick. For our story though, we're just going to be using the no lying down part for this one. There are 6 strokes in bamboo. You might expect to do the 2 no lying down parts first as if they're a crown, but we actually separate this into a part on the left and right and do them both separately. The first no lying down on the left comes first, followed by the staff that holds it up. Then we draw the no lying down on the right, and the feathered broomstick, this one made of bamboo, I guess, holding it up. Historically, this is said to have been a pictograph of bamboo with leaves hanging down from its branches. It's still supposed to be that. I personally see two hands reaching down from the heavens, granting the people of ancient China bamboo seed by the people from the stars. But you do you, historians. For our story, we're gonna say we've got two no lying down on top of a bamboo forest. You could go with making the stroke on the right a feathered broomstick made out of bamboo that the no lying down is on top of, indicating what can be made from bamboo, the bamboo on the left, that is. But that's up to you too. That brings us to the Lesson 14 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, write it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is name. Next is flower. Just a few more. Here's evening. And then there's bamboo. Finally, we have change. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our Level 1 Kanji Flashcard deck for ANKI on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.